Hi guys, welcome back to another video in yet another freezing cold garage as usual. So on the last video we got the back brake master cylinder all rebuilt, and I was hoping to get the brake caliper all rebuilt as well. Sadly I haven't noticed that the brake seals were completely wrong and they were way too big. Since then my supplier has kindly sent me another set out. They have arrived today just in time to make this next video. So on this video we're going to concentrate on getting the back caliper built up, get it on, get the back brakes bled and a working brake. So I'm going to crack on with that, and again let you guys sit and watch. Right guys, so in the last video I think I showed you putting the brake pad spring clip in there. So that's been copper slipped up inside there and that's been pushed in, just slots straight in. Now, hopefully, with the correct seals, we can get cracking. So again, .5 brake fluid, silicone based. I'm just going to apply a little bit to this seal. This just allows it to slip into its groove a little bit more easy than it normally would. And again, it doesn't matter about getting it all over the painted caliper because it won't damage it. These can be a bit fiddly if you're not used to it. I'll try and can't really show you, unfortunately, but that has literally just dropped into its slot. And again, dust seal, just a little bit of brake fluid. Start off by popping it in one side like that, and then just slowly work your way around. Careful that it doesn't twist around on itself, but if you apply brake fluid like that, it will just drop into its seal. Into its seat, should I say. Not it's into its seal. I'm putting the seal into its seal. Nope. Putting the seal into its slot. That's it. See, I'm just feeding it around there. In it goes. Easy as that. Brake pistons. Again, just a little bit of brake fluid on them there, and that will help them. Try and show you. Going through there. Line it up, and it should. Might need a little bit of a push. In. I'll try and show you on the camera there. So I'll just drop that in the hole. There we go, that's in. Brake pads. Right guys, you know I like my copper slip, or copper grease, whatever you want to call it. So on here, I'm just going to apply a little bit to the back of the pads. Just where the piston. Just like that. Oh, that's a very small amount, is that. This stuff spreads all over the place. And again, where the pad pins go through, I'm just going to put some copper slip on those two faces there, because that's where it makes contact with that spring in there. Don't want loads on, don't want too little on here, but it's not going to hurt in there. Keeps everything lubricated and moving around. So I put that in there. Don't know if you can now see where there's two little marks, a copper slip there and there, where that's made contact. Just helps that slide backwards and forwards on there like that. Same with this one. You don't need to put any copper slip on here because this one doesn't move or anything like that, but again, I like to put a little bit on there just so it's not rubbing metal on metal. Drop that in like so. Now, these retaining pins, these are genuine retaining pins, although I'm a little unsure as what, oh, chuck it away there, I'm not a little unsure on what finish it has on. In any pictures I've found, these are this funny black grey colour, and I'm a bit concerned that it's not going to last 5 minutes, even I keep it in a bubble. I don't know how long this will last. Luckily these aren't like the fronts, you don't have to screw them in and then put caps over the top. These literally have a little retaining plate that hold them in, so if I want to pull these out at any point I can. So I'm going to put them in as they've come, which is original. If they start to go off or they start to show a little sign of rust on the ends there that you see, I'll just whip them out and I'll plate them myself and then put a little bit of black on, I think. So they're fairly easy to change. So again, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to put copper slip right on the end. Work out where it goes. So you want a bit on because the pads slide backwards and forwards on there, so you do want some on. You don't want it swimming in the stuff, but I mean, you don't really have to worry about stuff seasoning in this when you're doing something like this, because if you're like me, you're never going to use the thing apart from on the sunniest of days. A lot of this doesn't really matter, but at least you know that you've done it, and you shouldn't ever have a problem if you need to be. If you have to take them out. I'm mumbling again, guys, sorry. I do apologise. Can't help myself. I'm still getting used to all this filming while I'm doing work. So basically, I'm holding the pads in. That's the hole that feeds through. Now, I hope you can't really see down that hole, but I think I've got it lined up. Drop that through. Nope. There you go. You can't really see, but it should now pop out just there. He says. Oh, there we go. I'll push that back out. So if you look there you go. So that's the first one through. And again, we'll drop that second one in there. Give it a wiggle. And then we should see it. There we go. Just popped out of there. Now, like I say, there's a plate that sits on here that drops over. I'll put that on last, and the reason I say I'll put that on last is because I've left it at work. I forgot to bring it, so I'll put that on last at the very end. They're not going to go anywhere. Just locks the pins in place. Next, we're going to take the pivot collar. I'm just putting these in here first, actually. Because we know it's stupid there, so they go in there like that. Sorry about that, guys. So the rubber boots go in the caliper first, easy to pop in, and then the little aluminium sleeve, the pivot sleeve, goes in. But unfortunately, all it wanted to do was keep pulling the other thing in, the other boot out. So I've popped it in. I had to push it all the way through, passed out, back out of that one, popped into this one, and now if you see it that side, I'm just about to send it back out, and if I keep hold of that boot, there we go. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just in there. So it's now nicely in there like so. Just drop the bleed nipple in. I won't nip that up, just finger tight. Next we have that. This is the little blanking plug. that goes in the bottom of the caliper, so we're going to drop that in. So that's the caliper built up. Get that blue roll out of there. That's the caliper built up. Dead simple, really easy job. I'm going to take you over to the bike now and we'll get this mounted on the bike. Alright guys, I brought you over to the bike. One thing I nearly forgot. Get it out. The little boot that just goes on here. So again, I've just applied a little bit of Hellerine oil and that should slip into there just like that. That's fine. That's the mounting bolt. I've greased that up. I've also applied a tiny little bit of copper slip just to the threads, as I normally do. Not too much, just a tiny little bit. Work its way around into the threads. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the caliper, I'm going to slide the caliper very carefully over the edge of the disc. Be very careful not to scratch anything. That up against that. I'm going to set that through the hole. Just going to wind this in. Remember what I said, careful not to damage the finish on the socket. So I'm holding the socket or the extension and I'm not letting it turn back as I ratchet. Right, this is the pivot bolt just here. I'm going to apply some copper slip just to that bit because it's going through an aluminium sleeve, so you don't want it to corrode. And again, I'll put a tiny little bit on the threads. Pop that in there. Give the caliper a wiggle till the bolt lines up. Again, being very careful when you put the socket on and putting a bit of tension on it so it can't knock the nut. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to give that a nip. Be careful there, I'm just going to give that one a nip. So that's on. It's got a little bit of play in it, like it should have. I'm going to put the banjo bolt on now. Now something that I didn't point out in my other videos, which was brought to my attention, you shouldn't get copper slip anywhere near the brake fluid or in the braking system. So when you apply the copper slip, if you want to the end of the banjo, be very careful when you put all this on, you don't get any copper slip in there. Trick is not to have it all thick on the end of the threads. As long as it's not all thick on the end of the thread, you won't have a problem. So again, there's a notch in the top here which that neck sits into, so you know you've located it into the right place. You see that it's not tight, but that's all it'll move because it's in the correct slot. Again, you don't want it pointing out over here, but it's fairly self-explanatory where that goes. We're going to tighten the caliper bracket bolt to 24 Newton meters. Again, being very careful not to scratch it. That's good. Now we're going to tighten the caliper pin bolt. There's no settings for this blanking plug at the bottom, so now it's actually mounted onto the bike. I'll just give that a little bit more of a nip. Not too much because you don't want to strip the threads because it's only into aluminium. That'll do, and then we'll check for leaking on that once we bleed the brakes. Right, while we're up here with the torque wrench, the banjo bolt here. We're going to torque this up as well. Again, be very careful, trying not to damage the plating on it. Got away with that nicely. Right guys, we're going to fill the reservoir up with brake fluid now. Whip them out. So like I say, everything's nipped up on the brake system. Banjo bolts are nipped up. Bleed nibbles nipped up by hand. They're plugging the ends in. So I'm going to fill the brake reservoir up with brake fluid, and then we'll attach the vacuum system, which will hopefully draw all the air out. So that's the rear brakes all working. They're all bled. I've checked for leaks. There appears to be no leaks anywhere. Brake pedal's working. If I put my hand on the rear pads and press the pedal, you can feel it activating them and working. So that it's all working. It's in this back stand at the moment, and the Honda paddock stand that fits this bike, because the non-genuine one doesn't fit. It's not a good fit, and I don't like using it, so I'm going to damage it. But the proper Honda one, the other bike's on at the minute, so you'll have to take my word for it that it works, but it does. I've just got the brake pad pin retaining plate to fasten on, which I'm going to do next, but I'm going to have a short break. I'm going to have to pop up to work to get that, because I'm going to left it at work like an idiot. Right guys, we had a brief break. I've popped up to, I've been back up to work, and I've picked up the little brake pad pin locking plate. So that's what it looks like. I've applied a little bit of copper slip just to the back where it's going to sit on and lock the pins in. So what I'm going to do is fits over the end of the pins and then drops down like that. Put a little bit of copper slip on this bolt. Going to lock that in now. So guys, that's the rear caliper on. Everything's tightened up. Got the brake pad pin locking plate on there, it's tightened up. I've been around, these have all been torqued up as you saw earlier on in the video. I've just put the nice little white marker pen mark on there to show that they've been tightened up. Same there. And if we come around here, same on the end there. As you saw in some of my other videos, the front caliper bolt should be marked up as well. They were already done. I've just marked that one up, the one at the other side, and we've marked that one up there. So there are all the white marks on all the brake banjo bolts and on the caliper bolts, as per what I've seen in the factory manual on the diagrams in there. So they're all done. There's on that link pipe that goes over the front mudguard, there are two little marks to put on there with a yellow mark, but my yellow pen has dried up. So all very sad, I know. So there's still a lot of jobs left to do on this. There's a lot of little fiddly stuff. One of the main jobs is going to be the bodywork. That's going to be quite a large job, but that's the last job. Everything gets done before that. So there is a lot of fiddly stuff. There's a few bigger jobs to do, like the front clock, speedo, all that, and the frame that holds all that. So there's all that to do, which is actually, I'll show you. Which is actually there. So there's a clock. So there's those clocks to do. There's a lot of fiddly jobs left to do. There's a ton of fiddly jobs, bolts to find. I'll give you a quick look at some of the things that we have to find. So Still got the correct bolts to find for the front there. They're out of stock everywhere, and they're a bit of an oddball size, so there's those to find. We've got handlebar ends to find. We've got a lot of the cables to connect up still. We've got the oil tank pipe there. There's a couple of clips that want plating that go on. One of the main things that's missing on the end here is the radiator. That's actually away at the moment, being recored. That should be back with us fairly soon. Moving on to the back, we've got the back light to do. That's going to be a bit tricky because all the metal components are actually sort of folded around the plastic housing, and also the light lens is all broken. I might do that in the next video because that's going to come up really well, because I might have already done that one. Exhaust pipes, again, I think I said in the very first video we did on here, the silence have all been completely redone. I've got the tips to paint silver because they should be silver paint. The one thing that I'm a bit nervous about getting done, there should be a part number on here that should say HM KV3 and then the Honda logo with the manufacturer of the exhaust pipe, which, if correct me if I'm wrong, is Sinansky, I think, off the top of my head, and then a part number. The problem is I've got to find an engraver I trust 100% to put that on in the right place under there and on both silencers, because if they get it wrong there'll be no putting it right and all this will be ruined. It's been refinished, it's had the correct brush finish put on, as well as the fact the whole thing's been completely remade. I'll show you an original. There's an original one, and as you can see, that's the insider. It's obviously been dropped at some point. It's been crushed up against the swing arm, and on the outside it's just a real mess. There's the part number and everything. Just there, Sankia or something. This was a spare. The other two looks exactly the same as this. So the insides were all cut out and removed, and it was all re-sleeved and everything. But it was quite a it was a good job that was got done. So again, I've got to trust someone to do that. So there's that to do. So there's that to do. Sorry. I've got all the correct fasteners for this now. We've got all the right bolts for that. We've got all the right bolts for here. We've got the foot peg springs to put in there. And at the other side, we've got the chain to fit, all the correct sprocket bolts. So at the other side, there's all the chain to fit, the sprocket, front sprocket to fit, the sprocket engine cover, the generator, the flywheel to fit. There's a lot of little bits left to do. All the main stuff, all the big stuff's done. Engines built, engines in the frame, exhausts are on, wheels are in, brakes are working now. But yeah, there's a lot of niggly little bits left to do that are going to take probably quite a lot of time. So I'm going to work my way through them. So bear with me. Keep tuned in and we'll work our way through it. Hopefully if we get the radiator back before next video, I'd like to get some coolant put in it, some gearbox oil, and hook a few things up and actually see if it'll start up. That'd be nice if we could do that. That'd be a good video, I think. But yeah, it all depends on the radiator. But yeah, if you'd like to leave a comment, please hit the notification bell, and most of all guys, please subscribe. It just supports me making the channel, at least then I know you guys are actually liking what I'm doing. So yeah, see you in the next video guys. Thank you.